History hides a specific algorithm that has dismantled 3 global titans in the past 5 centuries. As we sit here in 2025, America is tracing those exact footsteps, move for move, as if we are reenacting a tragedy that has already played out with catastrophic results every single time. Back in 1590, the Spanish Empire held more wealth than any nation on Earth. They possessed 50% of the planet's precious metals. Their armies were the masters of Europe. Their money was the universal standard. 8 decades later, they were destitute, a second-tier nation that never bounced back. By 1914, the British Crown held dominion over the largest territory mankind had ever seen. The sun literally never set on their holdings. The pound sterling was the bedrock of global finance. 4 decades later, the empire had evaporated. The money failed. They became a subordinate ally to the United States. Then came 1991. The Soviet Union stood as a binary rival to the West. Nuclear arsenals, planetary reach, satellite states wrapping the globe. It vanished in less than 3 years, not by the sword, but by financial suicide. 3 distinct eras, 3 global giants, 3 total disintegrations, all adhering to an identical timeline. And this is the reality that should keep you up at night. The United States has already finalized 5 of the 7 phases. We aren't nearing the precipice, we are already falling. This is the chronicle of how superpowers die, the delusion that makes them believe they are immune, and why the arithmetic suggests we are next. And the process is accelerating beyond anyone's comfort level. Before we dissect the sequence, you must grasp the true nature of imperial death. It isn't what movies depict, it is an invasion or battlefield surrender. It begins with fiscal fatigue. The empire stretches further than its wallet allows. Garrisons in 150 nations, conflicts on various borders, guarantees it cannot honor, bills it cannot pay. Initially, the rot is hidden, the money still spends, the troops still conquer, the state still pledges support, but underground the pillars are snapping, capital is wasted, industry withers, the intellectuals flee. Then the slide quickens. Friends start looking for exit strategies. Rivals push their luck. Commercial partners hunt for new options. The privilege of being the global reserve currency fades. Suddenly, the assets that made you dominant become liabilities. Your currency, once hoarded by the world, rushes back to your shores. Your global military footprint becomes a logistical nightmare. Your word, once backed by iron, becomes noise. This isn't a hypothesis. This is the history of Spain, Britain, and the USSR. And it occurred because they took the exact same path we're walking today. They thought their dominance was eternal. They spent too much on war. They destroyed their money's value. And they denied the truth until the roof caved in. Let's examine how this played out 3 times in identical fashion. We begin with the first planetary hegemon, Spain, spanning the 16th and 17th centuries. This is the prototype. Following Columbus's voyage in 1492, Spain became the heavyweight champion of the world. They toppled the Aztec and Inca civilizations, seizing the most lucrative mines ever found. By the mid-1500s, Spanish fleets were hauling 200 tons of silver back to Europe annually. By 1600, that doubled. Spain dictated the continent's money supply. The real was the currency of trade. Everybody craved Spanish silver, and this is where the sequence ignites, with a nation that controls the global ledger and assumes that makes them untouchable. King Philip II, who reigned during the latter half of the century, possessed more capital than any king before him, and he burned it all on expansion. Phase 1. Military saturation. Spain engaged in conflict on every frontier at once, fighting the Ottomans in the Mediterranean, the French, the Italians, the Dutch rebels, the English navy, plus skirmishes in Asia and the Americas. By 1580, Madrid was obligated to defend land on 4 continents. The price tag was astronomical. Half the national income went to war, and it still wasn't enough. Phase 2, currency corruption. The crown couldn't cover its expenses through tax revenue alone, so they did what all dying empires do. They corrupted their coinage. They began diluting silver coins with copper. A piece that began as pure silver became half copper, then 3/4 copper. The face value remained, but the purchasing power crashed. By the turn of the century, their money was essentially token currency. Traders refused to take it at par. Prices skyrocketed. Phase 3, the debt trap. Spain borrowed relentlessly from Italian and German financiers. By 1557, not even 2 decades into Philip's rule, Spain declared bankruptcy. They defaulted, reorganized, and immediately borrowed more. They went bust again in 1560, then in 1575. Then in 1596, 4 defaults in 40 years. Every time they promised to fix the budget. Every time they returned to the addiction of spending. Phase 4, the erosion of industry. This is the paradox of Spain's fall. Having infinite money ruined them. When you can buy anything, you stop making anything. Why farm when you can import? Why manufacture when you can purchase? The Spanish elite viewed labor as beneath them. Domestic production cratered. Agriculture halted. All that wealth was funneled out to buy goods from rivals. The silver from the Americas merely passed through Spain to pay for French wine and Dutch textiles. Spain became a funnel. Riches poured in and poured right out. By 1600, they produced almost nothing. They were addicted to imports, and the silver needed to buy them. When the mines slowed down, the civilization snapped. Phase 5. Societal rot. As the economy buckled, lawlessness surged. The streets of the capital were lined with the destitute. The capable citizens emigrated. The brilliant minds fled to France or England, places that were actually building things. Spain was left with government officials, soldiers, and clergy. Consumers, not creators. By 1640, they lost Portugal. By 1650, they lost the Netherlands, their economic engine. By 1700, the empire was a hollow shell, massive on a map, but financially deceased. They went from the undisputed ruler of the world to a background character in less than 100 years, and they never reclaimed their seat. Modern Spain is a lovely, regional European nation, a place for vacation, not geopolitical strategy. That is the anatomy of collapse. Fast forward 3 centuries to the 20th century. The British Empire. At its zenith, London managed a quarter of the Earth's landmass and ruled over 400 million people. The pound sterling was the king of currencies. Global contracts were written in pounds. Central banks stacked British debt. London was the financial heart of the planet. And just like the Spanish centuries prior, they thought the sun would never set. But the algorithm was already running. Phase 1. Military saturation. By 1900, British forces were spread thin. India, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, the Caribbean. They were policing 6 continents. The expense was bleeding them dry. When the First World War erupted in 1914, Britain had a binary choice: remain neutral and watch Europe burn, or intervene and bankrupt the empire to secure victory. They chose war. The conflict cost Britain the modern equivalent of $1 trillion. They borrowed from everyone, primarily the United States. By 1918, the master owed the apprentice billions. They won the fight, kept the land, and thought they could recover. They were mistaken. Phase 2. Devaluing the currency. The pound was supposedly anchored to gold, but the war emptied the vaults. They shipped their bullion to America to buy munitions and food. By 1920, their reserves were decimated. Yet they tried to bluff. They repegged to gold at the pre-war rate in 1925. The issue? The pound was overpriced. British goods became too expensive for the world to buy. Factories closed, unemployment spiked, and the state had to hike interest rates to defend the peg, crushing the local economy. By 1931, the dam broke. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The currency lost a quarter of its value instantly. The global reserve currency admitted it was insolvent. Phase 3, the debt spiral. Britain never shook off the WWI debt. Then WW arrived. Another massive bill, more loans from America. By 1945, Britain owed the US and Canada an amount larger than its entire economic output. They won the war, but the empire was dead on arrival. They couldn't fund it, couldn't guard it. Phase 4, shedding the empire. In 1947, they surrendered India, the crown jewel and their primary revenue source for 2 centuries. Over the next 2 decades, the rest fell away. Africa, the Middle East, Asia. By 1970, the British Empire was a memory. Phase 5, currency collapse. The pound continued its descent. In 1940, 1 pound bought $4. By 1950, it bought $2.80. By the 80s, it was near parity. Today, it's a fraction of its former glory. The global standard became a local currency. Britain tried to keep up appearances, a UN seat, nuclear missiles being America's best friend. But the world knew. They were a museum of past greatness. Now consider the most recent case study, the USSR from 1945 to 1991. Emerging from De-dollarization, they were a titan. Nukes, massive armies, total control over Eastern Europe. They believed they were the inevitable future. They spent 45 years mirroring the US, matching tank for tank, missile for missile. But internally, the engine was broken. Phase 1, military bloat. The Kremlin allocated nearly a fifth of its GDP to defense. That is 3 times the American rate. They tried to match US tech and global reach with an economy that was a fraction of the size. They were in Afghanistan, Cuba, Syria, Vietnam, Africa. Everywhere the US pushed, they pushed back. It was mathematically impossible. Phase 2, economic paralysis. Growth halted in the 70s. Oil exports kept the lights on, but nothing else functioned. Manufacturing was abysmal. Agriculture failed. They missed the tech revolution. By the 80s, the USSR was importing food. A nation with the planet's best soil couldn't feed its people. Why? Because command economies fail. Innovation dies without freedom. Production stops without incentive. Phase 3, currency rejection. The ruble was monopoly money. It had no value outside the borders. Even their own people preferred dollars. The state had to use gold and oil to buy foreign goods because nobody wanted their paper. By 1985, oil prices crashed. Gold reserves dwindled. The cash ran out. Phase 4, the empire fractures. In 1989, the Berlin Wall came down. Eastern Europe walked away. Poland, Hungary, East Germany, gone in a flash. The buffer zone vanished. Moscow couldn't stop it. They were bankrupt. Phase 5, total disintegration. On December 26, 1991, the USSR dissolved. From the fall of the wall to the end of the nation took less than 3 years. No invasion, just financial suicide. Soldiers weren't paid. The bureaucracy froze. The currency hit zero. A superpower with 30,000 nuclear warheads died because its bank account hit zero. The sequence repeated. Overextension, currency fraud, debt, loss of territory, collapse. And this is the part that should haunt you. The United States is currently walking this exact path, step by step. Stage 1, military ubiquity. Washington maintains a network of over 750 bases across 80 nations. We have boots on the ground in 150 countries. We are sworn to protect Europe, East Asia, the Middle East. We are checking China and Russia simultaneously. Our defense bill is $850 billion a year, more than the next 10 nations combined. And it's insufficient. We are afraid. Ships are rusting. Recruitment is plummeting. We have made guarantees we physically cannot honor. If 3 major conflicts erupt at once, we cannot fight them all. We are overextended, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the Soviets. Check. Stage 2, currency debasement. In 1971, the gold backing was removed. The dollar became paper. Since the turn of the millennium, the money supply has quadrupled. Since 2020 alone, we printed trillions. The dollar has surrendered 98% of its purchasing power since the 70s. We aren't shaving coins, we are printing digits. The method varies, the result doesn't. Debasement. Check. Stage 3, the debt vortex. The national debt stands at $36 trillion. That is 120% of our economic output. We now spend more on interest payments than we do on the military. We run deficits in good times and bad, almost $2 trillion in the red in 2024. Borrowing money to pay the interest on the money you already borrowed is the textbook definition of a debt spiral. Spain defaulted. Britain borrowed until it broke. The USSR went dry. We are on that track. Check. Stage 4, the death of production. America has ceased to be a manufacturer. We design, we bank, we buy, but we don't build. Our industrial core was shipped overseas. We import nearly $1 trillion more than we export every year. We rely on foreign supply chains for antibiotics, computer chips, steel, and weapons parts. Just like Spain needed imports while their silver drained away, we need imports while our dollars drain away. And when that flow stops, the lights go out. Check. Stage 5, societal fracture. Faith in our systems has evaporated. Crime is up. Destitution is visible in every major city. Deaths of despair are claiming 100,000 lives a year. The most talented are checking out. Birth rates are plummeting. Political paralysis is absolute. We cannot agree, cannot fix, cannot build. The smell of decay is pungent, yet everyone acts as if it is normal. It isn't. Check. We are at stage 5 of 7. The Soviets collapsed at stage 5. Britain collapsed at stage 5. Spain dragged it out, but the ending was the same. We are not approaching the danger zone. We are living in it. Stage 6 is the forfeiture of reserve currency status. This occurs when allies begin to hedge their bets, when global trade shifts to new ledgers, when those dollars abroad come rushing home because they are no longer required. We see the tremors, rival blocs building payment systems, central banks hoarding gold, energy being traded in non-dollar terms. The fissures are widening. Stage 7 is the collapse. This is not a slow fade. It is a rapid disintegration. The USSR went from binary superpower to non-existent in 900 days. Britain lost its global standing in 2 decades. When the money fails and the debt becomes unpayable and the army can't be funded, gravity takes over. It happens fast and violently. And everyone who said, "It can't happen here," learns the hard lesson. It can. And it does. All 3 empires, Spain, Britain, the Soviets, convinced themselves they were unique. They believed the rules of economics did not apply to them. They were wrong every single time. We are currently feeding ourselves the same comforting lies. We have the tech, we have the dollar, we are America. But the algorithm doesn't care about national pride. The math is relentless. You cannot consume more than you produce forever. You cannot print wealth. You cannot dodge stage 6 and 7 after completing 1 through 5. The trajectory is set. The only variable is the clock. Maybe a decade, maybe 5 years, maybe less. But the collapse is inbound, and when it arrives, it will be abrupt. A currency shock triggering a debt crisis, triggering a political meltdown. Overnight, the giant becomes a fable. The global currency becomes a local relic. We have accelerated every phase since 2020. More printing, more debt, more war, less production, more division. We aren't walking, we are sprinting toward the cliff. And the drop is visible if you know where to look. Perhaps there is an off-ramp. Perhaps the US can achieve what Spain, Britain, and the USSR could not. Maybe we will correct course. Maybe this time is the exception. But history, having watched this tragedy play out repeatedly, suggests we are about to learn the lesson the hard way. If this clarified exactly where we stand on the timeline, subscribe to the channel. Because when we hit stage 6 and 7, you will need to understand the mechanics of the fall. The answers aren't in the future, they are in the history books, and I will show you which pages to read.